As promised, I'm here with Derek Savage from Savage Media. We want to cover a high-level overview of what a sales funnel is and how you would implement remarketing and video into a sales funnel. This is a pretty complicated topic, and it's about as good as it gets when it comes to digital marketing. So I wanted to call in some reinforcements. And to tell you the truth, Tetra Prime, we do a lot of marketing, a lot of digital marketing just across the board. But Derek Savage, he's a specialist in producing video and using video to get marketing results. So he's a lot more specialized within this area. And in fact, I follow a lot of his stuff, and when something gets out of my league, he's kind of my go-to for doing a higher level production. So I wanted to make sure that I brought him in for this, so you guys get the absolute best experience possible. Derek, how did you get into video marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a background in sales, so for the longest time, my professional career was based around sales and having sales conversations. I've sold products, I've sold services, I've sold advertising, and all the while, video was something that I was interested in, but never really made the connection until I saw that the results that it was getting for the people I was making videos for was just crazy. Like based on, if they would release a video versus if they would release any other form of content, whether it's, photos, or whether they would release just ad copy or emails or whatever it is. If you add video, regardless of the platform, it automatically becomes more engaging. It automatically gives your clients, your customers, whoever you're trying to reach, it gives them a way faster and more efficient way to digest the information that you're trying to put out there. And it also shows them, instead of telling, what it is you're trying to do. If you're writing an email to them, for instance, and you've got like all these paragraphs of text, you're asking them to work to understand what you're trying to say. With video, all they have to do is watch it. And it's almost like the Matrix, when he's like, I need to learn how to fly a helicopter, and he just downloads it into his brain. Video is the closest we have to that right now. So yeah, it's super effective. I mean, any marketer will tell you that that video is going to have the highest level of engagement of any kind of medium. So that's why I use it for my clients. And at the end of the day, it's about solving problems for businesses, and video tends to be the fastest and easiest way to do that.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's really nice about video, and I try to mention this quite a bit, but Facebook, their algorithm promotes video. So there's definitely preference for video, specifically native video. And then people that are willing to do live video, Facebook's going to give that even more preference than other types of content that you would put out. So, I mean, not only is it more visually engaging, easier, as you were saying, for the person to digest, but Facebook gives it preference. So its reach is just naturally going to be a lot better from multiple different angles. So I do feel like within any marketing campaign, somebody that's willing to do video, and I know that Derek, you make it real easy on people when they're producing their own videos, in terms of kind of doing the work with them beforehand, making them feel comfortable with the process, editing it, making them look like rock stars, and then that way, when they put out the finished product, there's nothing to be scared about, and everything's already optimized. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the video component. But I do want to get into what exactly a sales funnel is. And to tell you the truth, our company, or not really our company, but when I first started off in digital marketing, I was not really differentiating the crowd. All of my advertisement was going, I was trying to like land deals with advertisement right off the bat. So I didn't have the structure of a sales funnel. So I was wondering if you could let people know sort of what a sales funnel is, and sort of what the different layers within a sales funnel is, and why it's important to separate those layers out and to differentiate your message.
Sure. So a sales funnel is basically the pipeline, or the method by which a sale occurs. And there are different customers or different prospects that live on different levels of this funnel, depending on how far along they are in the customer journey. And if you're a medical practice, this could be a patient. If you're if you sell a product, this could be someone who might have some interest in your product, or even might not even know they have interest in your product. And if you've ever seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, it does a great kind of illustration of this, the AIDA sales funnel. It's the classic sales funnel. So I've got a little bit of a visual helper here. So I'm just going to write the different levels of the sales funnel here. And on the first level is attention, right? So this is the A. So attention is going to be the thing that grabs your audience, right? If somebody doesn't know you exist, they're not going to be able to buy from you or become your patient or become your client or become, the person that is paying your company's bills. So attention is super important. Is what you're doing getting attention? And that's one reason, Aaron, when you mention Facebook Live being effective, it immediately, if you're following a person that goes live, it immediately sends out a notification that says, hey, Aaron just went live. Tetra Prime just went live. Savage Media, at Real Savage Media, if you want to follow me, is going live. Little plug there. That's a key thing to get attention from people. The other thing is your content good, right? Are you putting stuff out there that immediately grabs people's attention? People decide within 5 seconds if this is something they want to pay attention to. Is this important to them? Is this valuable to them? Or are they going to go to the million different other places they can go to with their time and money, et cetera? So attention is very, very important. And it's important that you make an impact immediately with your audience and let them know that you have something that they value, whether that's information, whether that's a service, whether that's a product. So that's the first step of the sales funnel. You want me to keep walking through it, Aaron?
Well,
let's talk about attention. Like, what are some of the things that you do for your clients, or what are some things that people tend to have questions about in regards to the top of funnel thing? It's really important.
I absolutely agree with you in terms of catching people's attention, and that's sort of what you need to do at the initial stage. We also incorporate some other components into our top of the funnel type marketing. I'm a fan of Simon. I believe it's Simon Sinek. He wrote a book and did a really popular TED Talk called Starting with Why. So I like to start with why. I give people a feel for why it is that we do what we do. And especially when you're talking about the work that we do within the mental health field. Matt, my business partner, and myself, we come from a background of doing direct patient care, and we both have personal and professional reasons why we care about the industry. So a lot of times I want to get that into the top of the sales funnel type stuff too. And then I do find that also that having contributors such as yourself right now, that top of the sales funnel contributors, I feel like are a little bit different than bottom of the sales funnel contributors. So I really do like to have somebody that's kind of catchy, kind of engaging for the top of the sales funnel stuff. The people that know how to catch an audience, that know how to engage on that level. As we progress down into the funnel more, they might not be as dynamic, but they're going to be a lot more like the person that's going to ultimately be the customer. So it goes from somebody that's a rock star like yourself down to somebody that's really close to a client, so almost down to like testimonial style collaborators at the bottom of the funnel. So I think that's a couple things that we do. I'm curious about your calls to action, how you would differ your call to action in like a top of the sales funnel video that you might put out versus more mid or bottom level.
Sure. So on attention, so the top of funnel stuff is more about letting people know that you exist, and letting people know what your offer is, and letting people know how you can help them and why they should keep paying attention. So it's typically, so a call to action, for instance, on top of level stuff might be a cliffhanger. It might be keep paying attention. One thing I love is when I love it and I hate it when I'm watching like a TV show and we'll get to the end of the episode and the hero will be in danger and you know, something's like left unresolved. That's the sort of stuff where if you can give people enough value to pay attention, but also let them know that there's more to come and more that they want to pay attention to, well, now you're getting into the next level of the funnel. And that's a great segue. And that next level of the funnel is interest. Are they interested? Do they care about what, you know, you got their attention, you grabbed them, you reached out, you shook them and you grabbed them and, you know, here they are. But do they care? So it's like, do I care? Have you built up enough interest in your attention level of your funnel piece that this is something that I want to keep reading about, or I want to keep watching, or I want to, you know, engage with in some way? And that is the interest level of the funnel. So we're going down the funnel. So we got attention and then interest. Interest is super important. You can grab people's attention all day long. You know, you can be loud and boisterous and bombastic and flashy. You know, I like to liken this to like billboard advertising. You know, you're going to get their attention. You're on the, you know, you're on their drive, you know, you're right in front of their face. So many businesses just leave it at that. They feel like attention is the only thing that exists in advertising, but it's so far from the truth. If you can get interest from your clients with whatever way you're marketing yourself, whatever way you're advertising, that's where you get leads. That's where the general public gets funneled down, and that's why it's a funnel from people who, you know who you are, to people who care about what you do and want to engage with your company. And that's where you can actually start to be selective about who goes further down the funnel.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. And just circling back to your call to action from the top of the funnel, sometimes those calls to engagement or calls to action, they don't even feel like a call to action a lot of times, because it's so subtle that when you meet somebody, you're not going to ask them to do something really, really significant for you. I think the first time I reached out to you, I can't remember what it was. I think I asked you something. Well, actually, I referred people to you first. You know, I was building that relationship, and I think I just asked a simple question like, you know, I was wanting some audio for a video that I was working on. I said, hey, Derek, we're doing some audio, and then we started it small like that. I didn't jump out there and say, hey, you know, try to get you to do something really big when you don't even know me. So a lot of times calls to action, they could be something simple like, you know, like us, or make a comment or something like that, or stay with us, like you were saying. But yeah, that once you're into that middle stage, you really are focusing on engagement there. People are interested in what you're doing. Now you've got some measurable metrics. What types of things that can you measure in video that might demonstrate that somebody is interested, they are engaged, and they're ready to move on to the next level of your funnel?
Absolutely. And it depends on your platform. The great thing about, you know, where we are today with all the technology that exists and the way, you know, everything we do online is tracked. I mean, it's scary, but it's also super helpful if you're trying to measure things. So measuring engagement is easier than it's ever been. So the way you do that, in regards to the conversation that we're having today, which is more about, you know, figuring out who your audience is and how to continue to engage with them. Facebook has some wonderful, wonderful tools on the business side of things that allows you to see, if you put a video out there, it allows you to see who watched it, how many people watched it, where are they from, what do they do, what's their demographic information, are they male or female, how old are they, all kinds of stuff. And the cool thing about that, and I'm sure we'll get into this part of the conversation here in a minute, is you can build your own custom audiences out of those people, and determine who you want the next video to go to. So if people are watching your video on the regular, like if you put out, you know, 2 or 3 attention focused videos and people continuously watch them, well, you'll know if there's stuff that you want to put out there that's more of an engagement piece, you know who your audience is, you know who is paying attention to you. So it's super helpful in that way. And on a side note here, it's all about, so this whole funnel, is all about, so it's a customer journey from not knowing who you are to having a business relationship with you. And I really want to instill in everybody that's watching this that relationships, just like with Aaron reaching out to me the first time on LinkedIn, like, hey man, I need some help with this audio thing, whatever, you know, and as we spoke back and forth about, hey, you know, what do you do in your business? What do I do in my business? How can we help each other do our thing? Now you start to begin to develop trust. And at the end of the day, I'll spoiler alert, at the end of this is trust. And the faster you can get from somebody not knowing who you are to trusting you, the faster. It's not closing a deal. Don't think of it like that. Think of it as opening a relationship, because that's really what you're doing with every customer that walks through your door or sends you an email. You're working on establishing trust and working on that relationship. And everything here, this can be twisted by bad salespeople or people that don't know what they're doing or have bad motives. But at the end of the day, everything here is, I want you to think of your sales process as being highly ethical. And I want you to practice ethics in sales as much as possible, because that makes your business way easier and it makes your customers way happier, and you'll be more successful in the long run. So I just want to emphasize the ethics and the trust of all of this before we go any further.
Yeah, I think that's outstanding. And in fact, within the mental health field, there are a lot of people that, you know, when you speak about marketing, it's very strategic, and it seems a little bit off-putting when you're thinking so strategically about getting clients and things along those lines. But
in some ways, it can feel like you're manipulating people, but that's it. Nothing could be further from the truth. Yeah,
and I think that that's so important to articulate. And even when we're talking about using terms like targeting, so using a sales funnel is highly targeted. Doing remarketing, extremely targeted. But what I like to equate that to is targeting sounds like there's something bad that's going to happen at the end of this. You know, it's, you know, we're aiming at something. It's a target. But your ads and the stuff that you're promoting are going to be much more relevant to the people that you're targeting, or the people that you're trying to provide value to. Absolutely. So you're not be annoying people with your ads, because you're not distributing ads to people that don't want to see them, and you know they want to see them because they've demonstrated they want to see them. So you're sending them more of what they want, and so honestly, as far as a marketing perspective, it seems a lot kinder. And at the end of the funnel, you're helping the individual. And I mean, when you're in the mental health field, if you can get somebody all the way down that funnel that really needs your help, and only giving them value to get them there, and them demonstrating that they need your help, you're creating a huge service by doing this. So I really appreciate that you made that point.
Yeah, absolutely, and that leads well to the next point, which is decision, the decision part of the funnel. So if they're paying attention to what you're saying, especially as a mental health professional, you're going to know that you can't force somebody to get help. You cannot force somebody to, like if they're an addict or if they're depressed, or, you know, the list goes on and on. You can't make somebody help themselves in that way, or seek out help. So the best you can do is let them know that help's available, and let them know how easy it can be to get help, and how easy it can be to work with you. And really, you're not selling mental health services. You're selling who they're going to be when they partake in your services, who they can be when they free themselves of these shackles that they currently have. And so that's really the message. And that's really, you know, what exists at the end of this funnel. So decision being like probably the most important part of the funnel, and the most important part of the sales process, because once they've made a decision to do something about their current state and to fix their problem, because all of this is addressing what their problem is, then all they have to do is the final step. And that can be the most difficult for some people. And that's the part that they may need a little bit of help from you on. But it's all about making it easy for them. And the last step is action. And if somebody's willing to go down this journey with you and take action, congratulations. You've established trust. You've worked your system. You've gotten them down the funnel, and you now have a new customer or a new client or a new patient, and the beginnings of a new relationship, which that's the end game. That's what you want.
And I think that's a really important point that you just made. Streamlining the process. Once somebody gets down to that last bit, what I see with a lot of private practices that are kind of struggling is that last bit is a hurdle, and people are already, they're really close, they're trusting you, but if that last bit, if you make it difficult, you won't get the conversion. So if people can do something like an online scheduler, something that makes things very, very easy, or even the length of your form. So if you want somebody to send you some information or to reach out to you so you can set up an appointment, the number of fields that you have in your form will dictate how many people fill that form out. So you got to balance the pros and cons of how much information you want to collect versus how many people you want to drop out of your funnel at that point, or maybe not drop out of your funnel, but kick back up to a higher level where you have to work back down again.
Right. And we could go into that as well. I mean, there is, it's super important to qualify your leads. Not everybody's a perfect customer. And also, one of the first things I do with my clients, and one of the reasons my clients keep coming back to me about this stuff, is I make sure I understand who we're trying to reach. That's probably, so different funnels. This is a very generic, very baseline funnel and system. You can create different funnels for different customer archetypes. You can have different customer experiences depending on who you're trying to reach. But I feel like the most important thing, and just like you said with Simon Sinek, you want to start with why. You want to start with, why are we offering what we're offering? Who are we trying to reach? What's in it for them? And, like I mentioned earlier, who are they going to be at the end of this process? It's not what are we trying to sell them, what are the features and the benefits. It's who are they going to be, and in what way can their life improve? What problem are we solving for them? So those are all super important things to consider whenever you're first building your system and you're first building your sales funnel. Because if you can't answer those questions, well, then you're going to have a funnel that doesn't work very well for you, or your clients or your patients.
Now, I do want to skip back to an idea that you spoke about earlier, now that we've made it down through all of the stages.
Sure.
You're kind of talking about how it's important to, well, you want to get a lot of people in your funnel at the top, and then you want to move those people into your funnel and to action as quickly as possible. Well, a mistake that I made when I was first starting out doing this,
sure,
was I would want to skip all the way to the end. So if the goal is to get to the end of the funnel,
that's where the sales are.
why don't I just skip right to the bottom of funnel? And some people do that, and sometimes it works. But why is it important to not just try to just jump straight to the bottom of the funnel with the call to action?
Are you married, Aaron?
I was hoping you would go there. I am indeed.
It's like that. You don't go to the dance club and start proposing to every girl that you think is a good partner or what have you. It's not, if you want a good relationship, if you want the right kind of relationship, you got to take it in stages. You've got to be able to attract the right kind of people. So you've got to know who your ideal customer is, first off. And you've got to create content that attracts that kind of customer. Then you have to lead them down the process, qualifying each step of the way. So if somebody's not watching your content, if they're not paying attention to your attention, level of the funnel, it's probably not the person that you're going to propose marriage to. It's probably not the person that you're going to say, hey, here's why you want, fill out my intake form, or, wear my ring, or whatever it is. You don't necessarily want everybody that's out there. As a business owner, one of the major things that you want to figure out is, who do I want to do business with? I was reading a book earlier this week called Profit First by Mike Makowski, I think his last name is, a guy that wrote The Pumpkin Plan. Anyway, one thing he talks about is how most businesses have, out of their entire client list, they have a certain percentage that are their best customers, and they have another certain percentage that they could easily just get rid of and be happier and be more efficient. And like, I can just imagine with mental health services, there are probably some clients that aren't the best clients out there, the best patients out there, that might be better served working, with someone else or, somewhere else. And if you think about the people that are your favorite clients, your favorite patients, and the ones that you enjoy working with, and give you the least amount of trouble at the end of the day, and are, you're always happy to see, they're always happy to see you. Like, let's find more people like that. Like, how much cooler could your business be? How much more enjoyable could it be for you on a personal level if you were only dealing with people you like to deal with, or you're only solving problems that you were the best at solving that particular problem for people? That's one of the first things that I, usually have conversations with my clients about is okay, what's going to help you the most? Who are we trying to reach the most? And let's figure out what we need to say to them.
And I think that that's important. Actually, the very first presentation that I did for Indie Private Practice, there was a lady that was in there. She asked a question, and she basically said about that it wastes her time when she gets the wrong type of client, because she has to do the introduction, she has to spend time on the phone, and then to get to the point to where she realizes, well, this isn't not the ideal client for me. Now I need to refer to another person. So if you're clear about things and you're qualifying people throughout your marketing process, you're not going to have to spend as much time on the sales portion. Or if you're in mental health, it would be like doing the assessment and taking the call. So your time is not going to be spent on that end, trying to service somebody and placing the referral. The referral could be difficult too. So you're kind of qualifying those people out along the journey. That way, at the end of the day, you have more time left to do all the other tasks that you have to do to keep your practice going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing, there was a dermatologist that I worked with at one time, and her major thing was, she wanted to do less of dealing with people's rashes and things that were like covered by insurance, and more of the stuff that was cosmetic, like, Botox and laser treatments and things like that, because it was just more profitable for her to do work like that. So everything that we did was based on, how can we attract people who want to, pay cash for cosmetic services, because that, for her, that's where all the profit was. That's where, and if she got too many people, booked, for her services that were just insurance patients that were, getting, moles removed and stuff like that, like, it was just eating up all of her time. And she wasn't able to serve the clients that, would be able to afford some of the higher end laser treatments and hair removals and all the fun stuff. So, that's something to think about is what part of your business is going to make your business successful more than other parts of your business.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer in making your business or your practice remarkable as well. And Derek and I, we both operate within digital marketing, and I'm sure he could take on a whole slew of different marketing, different types of marketing. But if it's not the area that he really specializes in, the product is not going to be remarkable. It's not going to be nearly as remarkable, not like the videos that he produces. So by saying no to some of the other stuff, even if he can do it, it's going to hinder his ability to really be amazing at what he does best. So I think that's a really great point. I sort of want to transition now from talking about a sales funnel, and that's a pretty high level overview. And we've talked about why video is important, but I want to go into the idea of remarketing, because remarketing in and of itself is it's kind of a hot topic. And most of the people within this group are operating on, well, all the people within this group are operating on Facebook, but that's primarily where many of the people are operating, and that's where a lot of the clients are. So if we could talk a little bit about what remarketing is, with a little bit heavier weight on Facebook and then maybe a little bit on YouTube, what would you say remarketing is?
It's magic. So the cool thing about remarketing, and it's sometimes called retargeting, is it allows you to only show your message to the relevant audience that you have built your message for. So this is great not only for well, first off, let me do a high level overview of what retargeting is. So the best way, the way I like to describe it to my clients is, if you know, like if you're online and you're like shopping for, you know, shoes, like tennis shoes, let's say you're looking at Nikes or Reeboks or whatever, and then, you know, 2 days later you log on to Facebook and now all of a sudden you're seeing all these, this just happened to me because I was looking at cars, you know, I was looking, I really am trying to fight myself not to put a down payment on a Tesla Model 3. I know I don't need it, but I really, really want it. So I've been going and like pricing out different like options on it. Right. And, you know, because of this, because I've been looking at that and other cars too, when I log on to Facebook, I see car ads like nonstop. I'm like being bombarded with car ads. And the way retargeting works, it's the same thing. So if you put out some content, or if somebody related to you in your field puts out some content, you can find out via Facebook's analytic tools who's watching what, who's looking at what, who cares about what, and you can target those people with your message. It's really useful in video. If you don't mind me going forward with this, Aaron, it's really, okay, cool. It's really useful when you're using video, because not only can you see who saw your video or your ad, you can see how long they watched it. You know, you can see how much of that ad is effective. You can see like, okay, we had a great attention piece right there at the beginning, but as we kept going, you know, we kept falling off and off and off, and to the point where nobody's watching after 3 minutes. You know, who knows, maybe nobody's watching this now, but we can go back later and we can see that. And so that's the cool thing about using video on a platform like Facebook is, you know, you can get into all kinds of things like split testing and creating funnels based on your audience, and making, and I'm probably going way too far into it right now, but you can have lookalike audiences, and you can have audiences that are based on what your competitors are doing. And like, there's so much to it. It's such a rabbit hole to dive down, but it's so fun once you start doing it, because you start to realize like all these shotgun effect approaches that don't work, that are a waste of money for the most part, you can forget about using them, because why even reach out to people that you're going to disqualify in your funnel anyway? Why not just reach out to the people that you know already have an interest in what it is you're offering? So that's the magic about retargeting and remarketing with Facebook or any other platform, is it allows you to speak only to the people that are going to have a chance of being a qualified lead.
So I think that's an outstanding description of what remarketing is. And in fact, if you look at what we're doing right now, this video in and of itself is kind of more top of the level content. So we're talking about things that are why you should be using video, why you should consider having a sales funnel, why you should do remarketing. The next video that we do, we're going to put out a little bit more content that goes a little bit more in detail about the specifics on how you might do some of these types of retargeting, because there's a difference between doing retargeting on different platforms. You can do retargeting based on pixels that you have installed on your site. So essentially, you can take a Facebook pixel, you can put it on your website, and then you can determine which ones of those pages you want it to fire on, and that gives you a lot of information. So if you're a therapist and you have your home page, but then you have a specific page that's for depression, you have another page that's for anxiety, and then within that page you have more content that people can click through. Now you can engage at what stage people are in this funnel, what would be appropriate, what would be the right kind of conversation. You should know, you would be able to know when you could propose, you know, using the Wi-Fi.
You're giving me the signs.
Yeah. So they've given you signs at this point that they're interested in your company. They're not only interested in your company, they're interested in anxiety. And then within that, you could have maybe another page where they could click down where they're suffering from panic attacks. So now you know that you could deliver content to those people that's specific to helping them with their panic attacks, and then your call to action could be a more immediate, because an article that you write is probably not going to be enough for them. You need to have a direct face-to-face conversation, and then you could have a form at the end of that piece of content. So yeah, it gets really, really nuanced. And the stuff with video is really, really interesting too, because like Derek was saying, the how far into a video is a very, very good indicator of how interested that person was. If something is not, if the hook doesn't get them, the rest of the video is not going to. So if they make it to 90% of your video, they're interested. They're ready to move on to the next stage.
Yeah, and it's also a good indicator if you're making good content. If people aren't watching your video, or if they're not sticking with your video, like start looking at the content you're making and saying, is this really adding value for people? Is this really giving them a reason to watch? And if the answer is no, then, you know, revisit your, you know, production, revisit your content. You know, that's something that, you know, I work with my clients constantly on, is making sure that we're sending the right messaging out there. Because if it's not effective, like, the cool thing about doing advertising like this is you can pivot pretty easily, pretty quickly. So if the last one didn't work, okay, let's make one that tweaks this and that, and then let's test it against that one to the same type of market, and or let's run them against each other. Let's see which one's better, and then we'll take the better one and we'll pitch that out to a bigger market. You know, so there's so many ways of doing it. There's so many, you know, you can have what I call video breakthrough sequences. You know, when you have a when you're first introduced to a product, or you're first introduced to something, and you know about it, but you don't really like it, it hasn't clicked for you, and then you keep seeing it everywhere, and you keep seeing it, and you keep seeing it, and finally, like after seeing so much of it, you think to yourself, like, you know, maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll give that a shot. For me lately, it's been the scooters downtown, the electric scooters. I keep seeing stuff about them, you know, and like next time I'm downtown, I'm gonna ride on one of them because I'm like so interested in them now. If I'd only seen one thing ever about them, you know, whatever, I'd probably forget about it. But through building sequences out, you can stay top of mind with people, and they have that. That's why I call them video breakthrough sequences, because they have that breakthrough where it's just like, yes, I do want to do this. They'll make that decision. So, like I said, there are a ton of different strategies behind this. But if you build the strategies right, and you always start with why, and you always start with who you're trying to reach, then that informs everything else, and you can reach who you're trying to reach, and you can, you know, build that relationship, build that trust through some of these funnels, through some of these, you know, breakthrough sequences.
So the last thing that I want to talk about is, so your ads, when you're using specific targeting like this, when you're using a sales funnel, retargeting, they're less annoying to people because they're only being delivered to people that want to see them. But the other nice advantage to that is that it costs you less in ad spend, because you're not sending those ads out to a ton of people and paying for all of those impressions. You're only paying for the impressions that matter. So the custom audience that you would make would be an audience based on people that have engaged with previous content. You're going to send it out to just them. So that's going to be a lot cheaper for you in the long run in terms of your ad spend, if you can get the funnel set up properly and your remarketing set up. Absolutely.
Like, compared with just taking a complete shotgun approach and just trying to be everything to everyone, it's so much cheaper to build a smart, you know, marketing retargeting funnel that engages people that you're already trying to reach. I mean, if they're in your funnel to begin with, there's a reason they're in there. So,
and it was awesome that you said that, you know, retargeting, you said it was magic. And I think that's a great analogy. So, I mean, how else could you spend a quarter of what you were spending previously and get better results? I mean, that is just, it really is, in terms of marketing, that that's as good as it gets. I mean, that is magic.
Yeah, yeah, and it's all about building the right kind of funnel and building the right kind of message, and if you're doing that and you're putting it in front of the right people, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with it, to be honest. You know, it's one of those things where if you build this thing right, you put $1 in, you get $5 out, you just keep doing it, and your business grows. And it can be an unlimited source of leads for companies, or an unlimited source of sales for companies, if they do it the right way. There's so many, and I emphasize if they do it the right way, because there is a lot of misinformation out there about how to do Facebook advertising and how to do Facebook marketing. So many people focus on the method without focusing on the reason behind the method. So it's super important to get all that down. That's why I keep going back with know who your customers are, know what your messaging is, know what your why is, and know why they should care about, you know, doing business with you. And as long as you're starting there, that's a good place to start. And then the methods do start to come into play. So that's always where I start with what I call a deep dive with every one of my clients. Man, we spend like 2 hours, you know, with coffee and notepads. Like, let's dig into this. Let's figure out. And it's so funny. A lot of business owners, they're so inside the business that, you know, a lot of times they don't realize what their biggest value to their customers is, you know, and it's interesting to see that, and it's interesting to help them uncover that. And it's when they do, they're just like, you know, like, that's what I'm doing. You know, that's why people hire me or come to me. So that's fun.
Yeah, I think that that's a really great point. And I think that it's something that every good marketer does. They ask those questions. I mean, even when I have conversations with you, you'll ask something and I'll be like, you know, that's a great question. Why is that? And then in the process of me answering that question, it gives me deeper insight into what's going on with that situation. So I think that you're absolutely right. Having somebody that's outside that's familiar with how to structure a story, because I know story is a huge component of what you do, and is familiar with really identifying your why. So a lot of people have a mission statement that they want to use as kind of the introduction, but the mission statement might not be engaging. It might not resonate with the other person's why. And if the other person's why doesn't resonate with yours, then they're not gonna be engaged. They're not gonna be like, that's the therapist I want to work with.
Yeah. You know, oftentimes the stories that we believe are more powerful than the reality that we experience. And that's really the important part about, you know, building all this out is you want to make sure that you're telling a story that people can believe in, and making that their reality. That's the cool part. You get to take that story and make it true. And, you know, for so many people, they struggle with seeing what they could be, you know, what their life could be like, or who they could be if they live out that story that you're a part of, or that you're presenting to them. So that's why the story aspect of it is so important. That's why I base my entire business around telling better stories for businesses, is because once you can engage somebody with a powerful story about who they can be, or what they can do, and really empower them with that, you know, the sky's the limit about what you can accomplish. If you're just throwing out like features and benefits, or like telling the story about who you are, it's going to be tough to get them to care. So that's a huge part of it too.
Well, I feel like that's a good place to wrap up the conversation. There's a whole lot more that we can talk about in terms of remarketing, and specifically moving beyond the why, getting down into the how and the nitty gritty of how to execute on the stuff. We'll try to put out some more content within that area. So that would be kind of the thing to stay tuned for. And that's like our light call to action with this, because this is
there you go.
We're not going to have a strong call to action. It's just going to be, you know, stay tuned to what we're going to put out next, because we're going to get more into the details and help you be able to execute this properly.
And one thing I'd like to challenge some of the viewers to do is, if you have any questions based on this that would inform some of the other videos that you know, Aaron, I know you're planning on making more. if you have questions about any of this stuff, if there's one thing that was like an aha moment for you, but you want to know more, please comment down below. Please, let Aaron or myself know that, like, hey, this is something that I'm struggling with as a business. This is something that I don't quite understand or want to know more about. We're really wanting to build this out to be a resource for everyone in this group. So please let us know if you have any questions about any of this stuff, and we'll do our best to, I know Aaron will do his best to answer those.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Derek. I really appreciate you jumping on here with me. And just so you guys know that it is the real Savage Media, to be differentiated.
At Real Savage Media, or savagemedia.us is the website.
All right, Derek. Thank you. And like I said, I appreciate you, and I look forward to working with you again in the future.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Aaron.
All right.
It's been fun.